Perfect. Sounds good. Well, let's start with the presentation overview. I know you had said to me earlier that with DryerBox, everybody knows the DryerBox itself name, but our goal really going forward is to sell the whole system. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Certainly, certainly. So the dryer box and at Inovate, we always focus on safe and efficient dryer venting. And the safety aspect of it, there are over 15,000 fires reported annually from dryer fires. So the threat is real. They said in 2015, over 30% of home fires were started because of lint accumulation and started in the laundry room because of the dryer. So the threat is real. But efficiency is another big thing as far as being able to use your dryer for the least amount of time as possible. And that all comes with airflow efficiency. So the dryer box gets spec'd in on many projects now. Over 60% of every new home last year had the dryer box installed. That should prompt you to start the conversation of selling the whole system, because the efficiency of the airflow only starts at the dryer box. But the whole rest of that system is going to impact the efficiency of the dryer as well as the safety as far as preventing lint accumulation. So when you see the dryer box on there, it should spark the question of, great, this is perfect. How long is your duct length? Because there is something I can help you with the efficiency of airflow to make that equivalent length run more achievable. Or is it venting out through the ceiling, out through the roof, or out through a wall? These are questions that are going to lead them down a path of getting the most efficient airflow and the best products that are designed specifically for dryer venting.
And these are mostly for new construction applications. Is that right?
The dryer box and the Dryer-Ell predominantly would be new construction because they are interior things. If it's already a finished wall, then there's going to be drywall work. You have to get the studs exposed. That being said, the dryer jack and the dryer wall vent, particularly in this time when people are afraid to have someone come into their home or new construction may be slowing down, we've seen a real spike in these because these are exterior applications. And so people are not afraid to have somebody come and work on the exterior parts of their home. So the dryer wall vent and the dryer jack are designed not just for new construction, but also for an easy retrofit and a nice upgrade for homeowners or people that are having issues with their dryers.
Okay, awesome. Let's walk through the overview we have here. What am I looking at?
So you're looking at next to the dryer or the washing machine there, actually, to the right of that is an installed dryer box. It's venting up. As it goes up through the stud cavity, it's making a turn with the Dryer-Ell.
So this is the L right here?
That's the Dryer-Ell right there. And the beauty of that is it has the same efficiency, airflow efficiency as straight pipe. So you don't lose any efficiency there. And then as it continues down through that joist space, there's a 45-degree L that gets it up to the dryer jack. And now where that air is flowing out of, there's no pinch point. There's no blockage at the end of the straw, so to speak. That has maximum airflow efficiency. So looking at the whole system is what's going to allow you to start introducing these other products, because the dryer jack is the perfect introduction to talk about the airflow of the system.
And where does the wall vent come into play for these?
Instead of going up through the roof, if that continued out through the wall, then it would be an installation on that exterior wall.
Oh, I see.
Or sometimes you'll see it coming down for a down venting, will go under and come out on the wall there.
Okay, so to cap off the project, they would either use the wall vent or the jack.
Correct. They have to go out somewhere. So now the question is, are you going out through the roof or out through the wall? Perfect. What are you using there? Are you using a standard type of vent termination that's not designed for the dryer? Or are you using something that is code compliant, is built to stand the test of time, and is actually going to maybe look pretty nice on the side of your building? The Dryer-Ell up at the top is something that it's a hit or miss thing with projects. It's a big winner for multifamily because typically that's where you're going to get into run length issues. And it is written in the code that the Dryer-Ell has the same airflow efficiency as straight pipe. So the measure equivalent is 1.5 feet compared to 5 feet for a standard elbow. So you think, okay, well, that's 3.5 feet. That's okay, but that's not a huge difference. The graph that's on the screen right now shows that it actually is more than 3.5 feet. For the equivalent span of run that you see here on this slide, On the left-hand side with the Dryer-Ell, the total duct run is 2 feet 8 inches. On the right-hand side with a standard elbow, the total amount of run is 7 feet 2 inches. So the net savings is 4.5 feet. The
And that's
reason
in
being,
materials and airflow, is that right?
correct, correct. And so the benefit of that, or the reason why there's so much more than just 3.5 feet, is because the Dryer-Ell takes up some of that straight pipe that's in the example on the right-hand side. Not to mention the fact that the airflow efficiency is going to be such that that lint is going to move through that turn, not accumulate in the corners and start blocking the airflow of the dryer.
I see. And do we have an idea of what the airflow difference looks like between the L and a standard duct run?
So the Dryer-Ell compared to a standard elbow is about 500% more efficient.
Wow.
So again, UL Labs and independent laboratories have validated that that Dryer-Ell, the airflow through that is the same as if it were going through straight pipe, an 18-inch length of straight pipe.
Okay, well that makes sense. I hear a lot of times from contractors that they have issues passing inspection because of airflow. Would this be one of the issues they're talking about?
So that's a great question. There are two things to consider. One is the CFM at where it comes out, and some people look very closely at, well, what's the airflow at the termination point where it comes out of the home? That can be at a good CFM. The only thing that's really going to reduce that is if there's a blockage. So even if you have a lot of turns in there, if that pinches off, it's just like squeezing a hose. It may be actually having the same CFM. What's more important is the back pressure and the resistance of the airflow. And the Dryer-Ell is really going to reduce that back pressure because, again, it's the same type of resistance as a straight pipe. Larry, you had a question?
Yeah, what is the, how do you make the connection where the pipe is conjoined with the elbow?
That's a great question as well. There is a male and a female end on the Dryer-Ell. So, and there is an actual arrow as well to show that, you know, the male is going into the female and then the male is going into the female on the other end. But it's the same as if you have crimped pipe and the airflow needs to go with the crimped, not against the crimped. Same thing with the Dryer-Ell. And just like any other duct work, any of those seams do need to be taped.
And they would just use their regular UL tape for that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, and not just where it connects at the seam to the ductwork, but also that lateral seam where the two pieces come together.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Larry?
Yes, and so I think you covered it. Thank you.
Okay, okay. The one thing to consider, and people ask, well, how much space do I need? If this is going in a floor joist, you need about 11.5 inches of clearance. So if you're going up and over, then you need to have 11.5 inches of space. And I think the next slide may have some pictures that'll show examples of where this will fit, how it would fit, and some of the different indications, even if you're going over a stud bay or two and to make that turn. Any place where you have a standard elbow, if you have 11.5 inches of clearance, you would install the Dryer-Ell, and it's like putting in straight pipe as far as the airflow efficiency and the length of the duct run.
Yeah, you can really see in this front picture how clean that turn looks compared to how your flex can, your metal pipe, your metal flex can crimp. Awesome. Okay. What else on the Dryer-Ell?
Well, the one thing I would say is don't sell strictly on code, because if you're in a single family home, the length of the duct run isn't typically a critical issue. However, if you start talking about airflow efficiency and what's best for the homeowner, particularly if you're going down and venting down, if there's a 90-degree elbow right under the dryer box, you've created a pinch point, so the whole rest of that duct run is going to be inefficient. So talk about efficiency with your customers And the fact that if I can save your homeowner 2 minutes of every dryer cycle, think about their cost savings over the course of the year, because when the dryer is running, it is the most expensive appliance in your home to be running. So
So
that's something to think
targeting
about.
some
Don't
more.
sell, yeah,
Oh,
don't sell
sorry.
strictly on code. Sell on the airflow efficiency and the cost savings for the homeowner.
Is there a limit to the number of L's you can use in the, is there like a duct length limit with how many elbows you can use?
Standard duct length is 35 feet equivalent length duct run. So the number of elbows isn't as important as what the overall length of the duct run is. Now, we always recommend you want to take the straightest, most direct route out. So obviously, you only want to have as many elbows are required. But as far as any limitation on that, the only limiting factor is what the equivalent length of the duct run is going to be. So as long as you're at 35 feet or less, then you're fine.
Because the Dryer-Ells are the same amount of length as a regular straight piece of ductwork. But what if the contractor was using a standard turn? Then he wouldn't be able to go as long, right?
Correct, because every standard elbow is 5 feet. So
Okay.
if he does not use the dryer box, that's another thing. The dryer box actually saves about 6 feet of duct run. Because one, you've eliminated elbow right off the bat. And then typically they're going to have to put an elbow to get out to the wall. So that's 2. So that's 10 feet of duct run. If you replace that with the dryer box and a Dryer-Ell, you've saved 7 to 8 feet of duct run. So now they can go 7 to 8 feet further towards the wall or 7 to 8 feet further up.
So is there any place that you recommend that this not be used?
The only place that would be difficult is, again, the space limitations. It does take a little more room, so you have to have space. You have to have about 11.5 inches to install this. However, I would say, particularly for multifamily, if they start to go beyond the allowable duct length by code, they're going to install a booster fan, which is expensive. It's going to need cleaning, and you can't guarantee it's always on. So you're better off trying to find a way to get the Dryer-Ell in there to eliminate the need for a booster fan.
So, okay, so a good sales question we can be asking our contractors is, do you have to use a booster fan? And if they are having to use a booster fan, we can direct them to this product to save them materials and cost.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
headaches. Yeah, so that's something else. You know, you see a booster fan on their product list, say, hey, why are you using this? What's your duct length run? Do you have space to put in a Dryer-Ell? Because this is probably a couple $100 cheaper than your booster fan.
Okay, that'd be a great thing to take to our multifamily customers. What else on the Dryer-Ell?
That's, you know, it's pretty straightforward. The biggest thing to understand is in the code. There is a
Okay.
chart in the code that allows this and shows what the equivalent length duct run is. And if you have any inspectors or any people with questions, have them call me directly. We answer these questions all the time. We talk to inspectors. We're happy to help out and educate them on something that, you know, they have a million things to worry about besides the duct length run. So we're happy to help with that.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's move on to the dryer jack. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
So the dryer jack, it talks about zero back pressure roof vent termination. Majority of roof vent terminations out there actually are against code. Number one, they have screens on them. Number two, they actually diminish the amount of airflow the 4-inch round pipe can carry. The dryer jack is designed, just like all of our products, specifically for venting a dryer. So a couple of the points on that slide, the collar and the curved damper maximize the airflow. The hood is curved, but also that damper door inside of it is curved. We've learned from the Dryer-Ell that a nice curved 10-inch radius actually has very efficient airflow. So we incorporated that into the damper door rather than the air coming up and hitting a flat surface and having to bounce off and figure out which way to go and some of that air being directed back down. It follows the natural curve of the dryer jack and has zero back pressure down into the system. Also, the requirement of a damper door. That damper door comes down and sits on a ledge. So because it's a sharp ledge that it sits on, it prevents bird and rodent entry. The collar itself that comes up through the bottom has a triple seal. It's a mechanical seal and then silicone at the top and the bottom, because we really want to try and eliminate any potential for leaks. Roofers always say, oh, don't give me any more penetrations in my roof because it's going to leak. Or that's why some people say, well, you can't vent a dryer through the roof. Well, the reason is because most of the vent terminations are not code compliant, or they are prone to leaks. So we've done a lot of things to make sure that it is virtually leak proof. And then there's easy installation with it. But the biggest point is, and there's been more attention to this product now because there was a rewrite of the code that says the opening of your vent termination cannot minimize the amount of airflow from a 4-inch round pipe. So if you think about your standard drone model or your standard other vent terminations out there for the roof, they have a very small opening, and part of it is to try and prevent bird and rodent entry, and they have a screen which is against code. So this is one of the few, if not one of the only ones out there that is code compliant for venting a dryer.
And then on our dryer jack too, you said that there's a difference in the like the CFM that comes out versus some of the competitor products.
Yeah, so there's an interesting video that shows us testing, and they measure back pressure or resistance of airflow in a system, and they use water column inches of pressure. So looking at the amount of pressure that's created when you apply a vent termination will tell you how efficient the airflow is. So the dryer jack basically has zero airflow restriction. It doesn't add any additional pressure to that airflow. They look at something of, they say anything that is 0.6 water column inches of pressure or higher starts to become a hazard, because one, your dryer is working hard, the heat builds up, and then two, lint is accumulating. So the dryer jack itself adds zero back pressure to it. And I think there's a video you may want to show, if you have that queued up, to show what the difference in different vent terminations will do on that back pressure.
Yeah, let's definitely look at this and then we can talk through it.
Would it be worthwhile for me to narrate this?
If you'd like to, sure.
So Rick's talking about the Magna Hela gauge that measures the back pressure in water column inches of pressure. He's pointing out a standard gooseneck vent and the amount of pressure that it creates. One, because the opening's not that big. Two, because the damper door typically is flat. So even though it's a rounded hood, the damper door inside is flat, so the airflow runs up, hits that flat surface, and some of it's redirected back down. Here's a standard drone vent. And again, if you watch that gauge on the right-hand side, you'll see how that pressure jumps up because
So
the air hits the flat
with nothing
surface.
on there, with it wide open, it's between the 0.25 and the 0.3, and then as we add the caps, it's increasing the pressure.
Right. So there is going to be resistance, right? That air is flowing through pipe. There is going to be some resistance. So there's some initial resistance when that gauge is measuring the airflow through the system. Rick's describing now the dryer jack itself, how big the opening is there, and showing the curved damper door and the curved hood, which again has the same designs as the Dryer-Ell. So when we put this on, watch the needle and see if there's any change as we apply it.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about airflow efficiency, safe and efficient dryer venting. People worry about, well, if you vent up, that lint's not going to get out of there. Well, based on the standard vent terminations, you saw the amount of resistance and the fact that air gets directed back down into the ductwork. Yeah, lint's not going to get out. But with the curved damper door and the curved hood and that maximum airflow efficiency, the lint does get up and out of there. So that's the big benefit of the dryer jack, why it is so efficient in the dryer venting. You see what happens when you have a screen on them. There's no screen, maximum airflow efficiency. Because that edge sits on a lip and it's a sharp edge, it prevents bird and rodent from getting in there. And because we work with service companies, we made sure the opening was large enough that they get their cleaning equipment down in there to clean out your ductwork, which should be cleaned out, you know, every 1 or 2 years.
Awesome. That is perfect.
I see that it's galvanized. Is it paint grip?
So it is paintable. It's Galvalume actually, and then there is also a powder coated option. Comes in black, brown, and white. So there is a powder coated option that's going to add to the corrosion resistance. So here you can see all the different colors and the Galvalume in front. So that's the dryer jack. Again, tell people they don't need to be afraid to go through the roof, because there is an option now that will allow for maximum efficiency to let all the lint get out, and it is designed to make sure that leaks in the roof aren't coming because of poor manufacturing of the dryer jack.
And if we weren't going to go through the roof, that's where the dryer wall comes into place. Is that right?
Correct. The dryer wall vent then, again, designed specifically for safe and efficient dryer venting. It's not a generic vent termination, and it is, again, very efficient, but the durability and also the appearance on the side of the building. So here's a picture of the standard 3 louver vent on the left. I'm sure we've all seen this before. That PVC doesn't hold up to the Texas sun or the Florida sun or the Dakota's cold. So that's what's going to happen in a couple of years. People say, well, it's a little cheaper. Yeah, but you're going to be replacing it every 3 to 5 years. Plus the fact that it's a very easy access for birds to get in there and build a nest. So it's just not an ideal option. On the right-hand side, you can see the difference of, and this is a custom color job of the dryer wall vent installed, making the facade of the building look much more presentable. It doesn't have those hoods sticking out, and there aren't any broken pieces that you can see that just, again, really stick out on the side of the building. So looking at some of the features, there is a built-in drip edge on the top. So that's going to prevent any leaking or moisture getting back behind the dryer wall vent. The damper door itself is a gravity assist device. And then as it comes down, you look at the black spots down at the bottom is actually a a rubber bumper that has a magnet integrated into it. So the magnet, once that damper door comes down, is going to keep it closed to prevent the bird and rodent entry. It's not a super strong magnet, right? But it's just enough to prevent that bird and rodent entry. And then the material itself is powder coated, deep drawn steel. This is all a very solid construction. And then there is a secondary backing plate. So you can take off this front piece. There's a backing plate that has wider hole footprint. So in case you need to get a little wider for the installation to get the material that you're going to be installing on. And again, there's a nice video that will illustrate the different benefits of the dryer wall vent and some installation points.
Yeah, and I have that right here for us.
That's an old hooded style. Architects call it builder's acne as opposed to a nice flush mount.
That's funny.
We have added a new color with the new design. Black is a standard color now. Some of these pictures come from actual service companies that work with us that have shown birds and things inside of the ductwork. And again, when that damper door is open, you have maximum airflow efficiency. There's not a hood that's pushing that air back into the ductwork. This is one of our service companies that did this video for us as he was showing up and doing a reinstall. So again, the idea of retrofit, it doesn't have to be just for new construction. There is a retrofit capacity to it as well. And so if you're working with customers that are going out on service calls as opposed to new construction, and they notice that, hey, you know what, let me take a quick look, you know, here's what you have, here's what I would recommend. And as soon as you put something like this heavy duty and this good looking in a customer's hands, they're going to say, yeah, that's what I want on my house.
And these are a one size fit all option, right?
So the collar on it actually is 3 15/16. All ductwork for the dryer should be 4-inch round pipe. So that collar does have a good friction fit inside of the existing ductwork. If it is a retrofit situation, sometimes you pull off that old vent and there's the GKW factor, my friend would say, the God knows what is going to be back there. If that ductwork is damaged, we do have a no collar option. So it would just be a flush fit on that existing ductwork. And so that's something that, again, we can get you some information, DryerWallVent.com. You can look at all the different models there. And there are some other videos that show the installation with a standard collar and with no collar. So that's a great resource. Again, each product has its own website. So DryerWallVent.com. There are videos there to show the one that was just shown, as well as different methods of installation.
So theoretically, say a contractor is primarily a service change out guy. Theoretically, he could carry one of each of these dryer wall vents on his truck with a collar and without, and on every service call, offer it as an upsell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, if you're going out to do that work anyway, if you're replacing the siding, they're not saving those vent terminations, they're replacing them. So why not replace it, particularly if they're upgrading the siding material? If they're upgrading to something a little nicer, why put the same tired plastic vent termination on there? It's an easy upsell. And again, all you got to do is put that in somebody's hands and they're saying, heck yeah. Oh, there's no question this is a better product. So having something on the truck that is just part of what they provide or what they offer, give the customer the choice.
That makes sense.
The other thing, we talked about multifamily. If you are doing multifamily, understand that if a project needs 48 or more of a specific color, we can do custom colors.
Okay.
So that's another link on the website as well of Dryer Wall Vent. There's a custom color option. It'll show some of the images we've done, and it has some outline of the program itself. So custom colors are available. If you're working with somebody that's doing some higher end condos and they're really investing in all the upgraded materials, the dryer wall vent is a home run.
And you said that was over 48 units?
Yes. Yeah, 48 units or more.
That's not even a lot.
Yeah, you get somebody that has 200 units in their building and they're going to use them for the bath vent termination as well. As long as you have 70 CFM of output in your fan, you can use the dryer wall vent for a bath vent exhaust as well.
Okay. Now I know that pretty much everybody out there has heard of a DryerBox, but can we spend a few minutes to go over what makes the DryerBox a little bit different than some of the competitors out there?
I'm glad you pointed out the DryerBox. This is
the original DryerBox.
The DryerBox, the trademarked DryerBox is the product that launched the company. It's something that, again, created a market segment. So the DryerBox, first of all, we already talked about that it's going to improve the airflow efficiency, not just because it eliminates an elbow, but it protects that transition hose from being pinched and kinked and crimped between the dryer and the wall. So you're adding efficiency to it. A couple other things though, there's no trim ring needed, so there's no extra piece to purchase, right? You don't have to worry about keeping track of it on a job site. There's no pinch point, because right down at the bottom you can see it's sloped, so when they go to push the dryer back, the transition hose is going to slide gently up into the recess of the dryer box. It installs on the base plate, so there's no guesswork. There are competitors that have straps for you to try and put it at a certain height with the studs, or you have to lift it up a little bit because we have to have room for the baseboard and then for the trim ring, there's no guesswork. It installs right on the base plate. 22 gauge steel, so it's part of a 1-hour fire rated wall. The last thing that a lot of people that have been using this for a long time still are surprised by, it is paintable. People want a finished product, but if it's all finished, when you go to paint, you got to tape it off. The DryerBox itself is paintable, and part of the manufacturing process, we actually take 2 extra steps to get all the grease, all the oils, all the waxes off that are used in the drawing process to make sure that it's paint ready. So a lot of people, when they're doing the baseboards, just go ahead and paint the DryerBox. You can paint it whatever, but it is paint ready. It is a paintable surface. So it's one less step, and people talk about, well, the trim ring looks really nice. Yeah, but something that's painted the same color as everything around it would look really nice as well. So
most of the time they have overspray and when they're doing it anyway, and they spend more time cleaning it up than they would if they had just done this in the first place.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So some other points, the fact that when it's installed, it's going to protect all the ductwork. So when different trades and stuff go walking through the construction site, they're not banging on the ductwork. It keeps it steady and prevents them from walking through. And then the last thing really is the DB480, which is our newest model. Most of you are probably familiar with it, but this is the only model that can be installed for up venting or down venting. So it's got a wider footprint than the 425. The other thing that makes it so universal is it's much